Hello, hello. We are live. I would ask the two of you to pull this up on your phone and to share it because I don't have the option of sharing when I'm managing the live panel. But you may recognize our special guest today. Sharissa Bradley was on the podcast a few months ago, and we were talking about the launch of her book. And today is launch day. Yay! We're so excited. I wish I had my updated version. I only have my proof book that has the big not for sale retail sale resale across the front of it. But my real book is coming. But you can get the gist of what it looks like. This beautiful book. I love the colors. I don't do a lot of books in oranges, but it really, really looks nice. So congratulations.
Thank you. I just am totally floored. I don't even know how you're supposed to feel on the first day you publish your first book, but I don't know. This is so surreal.
It's exciting. It's very exciting. It's like having a baby, sometimes almost as painful, but I don't think it was that painful this time.
No, I don't know. We'll see. I'll tell you in April when the next baby comes if it was equally as painful 4 months later.
We forget so easily the pain of
childbirth. Oh, yeah.
All right. So for those of you who haven't been following the podcast, are newer to the podcast, or missed the episode with Sharissa, her book is Journey Back to Health, 6 Steps to Confidently Getting Your Life Back. And what I posted on my page a little while ago is that I love this book because I have autoimmune diseases, lupus and Hashimoto's. And for me, it's always a struggle. Everything is a struggle. Using my words is a struggle. Speaking, thinking, doing all of these things. And I know I've read so much information. I've followed so many different things. I know that a change in diet and lifestyle would remedy almost all the issues that I'm having. The brain fog, the chronic joint pain, the weight gain, like insane weight gain that's not normal because my system's not functioning properly. But there's so much conflicting information out there and it's super overwhelming. I love Amy, oh gosh, I just forgot her last name, the autoimmune protocol. But for me, Amy Myers, but it's so freaking overwhelming. Your book, on the other hand, Amy, and you are very similar, by the way. If you haven't figured out, if you haven't followed her, read her book, or reached out to her, you should, because she's very similar like you. She had the diseases, she had the problems, and no doctor was giving her the right answer. So she set out to find her own solution and created the autoimmune protocol. But it's super complicated, I think. And the recipes are super complicated. And I don't think it totally addresses the mindset issue, which is not a physical ailment, but makes such a big difference in the overall thing. So I'm going to shut up and let Sharissa talk for a minute here. But I just wanted to say that from my perspective as someone who has read and followed all kinds of diets to help autoimmune issues, the fact that you break it down by a whole bunch of different things, walk us through simple steps, and provide the mindset component as well is huge, huge, huge.
I really thought that was one of the most important things. And I write about this in the book, but I struggled so much with autoimmune disease and with healing and what I was going through mentally, and just not even just the physical problems, but being diagnosed with autoimmune disease it really quickly is followed by depression and anxiety and just fully, like, my whole life is a different life now. And I have to think about my body completely differently. Right. And I did all these things and not to say that it was backwards, but I feel like so much of my time was wasted on doing all of these like huge changes and like tons of supplements or detox programs or this 30-day thing or that 30-day thing. And I never really put it all together and focused on, like, I probably need to get adequate sleep. I probably need to be moving my body in an appropriate way, because there aren't people who tell you how to move an autoimmune body. There's now an app that's like an autoimmune exercise app, but even that is kind of trying to fit a one-size-fits-all model for autoimmune disease, and that it doesn't really sit well, right? There are some days that I can do yoga in the yard for 3 hours, and some days walking down the stairs that's it, And I think that's where I tried to go with this book, is to put it in the order that it should be in, right? We got to get the brain right. We got to get the mental health right. We got to get the idea that we're not broken, and there's nobody, like, our body isn't trying to like attack or kill us. It's this like awesome little vessel that's trying its best to keep you upright and alive all day long. It's a tool that our soul, body, whatever you want to call it, is using to get us through this life. And its only ambition is to heal and to regenerate. And so it's absolutely impossible to think that your body is, or to feel your body is like trying to kill itself. But if you're constantly putting that notion out there, like, oh, my body hates me, or it's trying to kill me, or my body is attacking me today, like, that's all energy that's nasty and negative that's going into not healing your body. So after going through and doing all the dietary changes and coming back to the mental health component in the very end, I realized that was the most important thing. And then that's the very first chapter of the book. And the other thing the other feedback I'm getting is that these chapters are really short. They're just like this bit of information on every single thing, 19 different topics of detox, or the food that we should eat, or the type of movement that's right for your body, the mindset component, letting go of the need to be superheroes all the time. And everything is just kind of like little bits and bite size, and like, here's what you need to know, and here's how you can put it into practice, actually, not just theoretically.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
So those are my favorites.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard because, you know, you talk about detox and you talk about having to eat a clean diet, which, I mean, any amount of research at all is now showing connections between autoimmune diseases and the foods that we put in our bodies. Like, hands down, like, it hasn't reached mainstream medicine yet, which I can't really figure out why, because like there's so much research about it. But I mean, I am living proof that when I eat clean, my whole body fixes itself again. But it's hard, and that's one of the reasons why I really like the part that I was talking about, and the part that you were talking about the mindset, and realizing that, you know, it is challenging, and we have to get out of this idea. It is so much about like what we tell ourselves, and reframing it. For me, I have to get myself out of the idea of all the things that I can't have anymore, and start thinking about all the things that I can have, and trying new recipes and new diets and new things like that. But I got way off track in the past few months with a funeral and a move, and my husband changed jobs, and school started again. And I mean, it's our lifestyle in the United States is not conducive to eating clean and healthy.
Totally. There's a huge part of the book that I want to mention that kind of is in every chapter that rings to what you're saying. Like the last couple of months, getting off track, there's this other component of health and healing that when we do get off track, we tend to kind of be more nasty to ourselves, of like, oh, I'm doing this horrible thing, and I'm doing these mean things to myself. And we really need to be focusing on like, I'm doing, you know, this is what's going on in my life. This is a transitional period, and it's okay. And really just change that mental talk, that self-talk, to I'm still doing the best that I can do for my body right now with the limited amount of energy that I have and the limited amount of time that I have, and still making the best choices for yourself, and really celebrating every time you did something right, rather than thinking about like all these things that I'm doing wrong. Because even if you're eating a crappy diet, not exercising, stressing to the max, if you can at least be kind to yourself, that's a huge step in the right direction. And that's a really challenging thing to do.
Yeah, it is. It is. What about you, Nancy? You're the only one in the triad here who doesn't suffer from an autoimmune disease.
Well, that's not true, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just that my autoimmune disease is like not, it doesn't manifest itself like consistently. I actually have pernicious anemia, which means that my body can't absorb B12 from
Didn't
food.
know that.
Yeah, so
Never heard of that one.
I found out I had it when I was right after I had my first daughter, I think, I like went for a checkup and I had like no B12. And the doctor freaked out and I had to like go into the office every day for a week to get shots, and then once a month, and then like every 3 months I have to get, and and then I can feel it when I'm running out of B12.
Oh, interesting.
Like I lose like I have like really bad circulation, and I lose I get like tingling. It's almost like having neuropathy, but not really.
Interesting.
So like, but but even if you don't have an autoimmune disease, I mean, like I already know for myself that there are certain things that I eat that make me feel terrible.
Oh yeah.
And so instead of being like, oh my God, I can't eat this cheese, I like really try to think of it as, I'm not going to eat the cheese because I value how I feel when I don't eat it.
Yeah.
Like
that's such self-love, right? That's totally loving
like,
yourself.
I cannot eat dairy. Like I have to come to accept that, and that if I do eat dairy, I just have to be prepared. So I'm not going to feel good. So I mean, so like even if you don't have any autoimmune diseases, this book is still like so valuable because everybody benefits from not being stressed out. Everybody benefits from getting more sleep. Everybody benefits from kind of learning, what foods make you feel good and what foods really just make you feel terrible.
The occasional detox is good for all of us. I love this chapter so much, not because it's about detox, because I hate detoxing, but I want to give out a shout out to another person whose book I produced, Awaken by Julie Santiago. And when I was reading this book and I saw you start off, I recently read the most beautiful story about butterflies in the beautiful book Awaken by Julie Santiago. And I was like, holy crap, one of my authors just referenced another one of my authors. That is so cool.
It's good. That's awesome.
But yeah,
that was a good book. Yeah.
It was a phenomenal book. And again, another book about the importance of loving ourselves and bringing ourselves back to center and all of those types of things. But, I think that it's really interesting what's happening in our society right now, that as we go through this period where everybody's stressed out, everybody's overcommitted, everybody's over everything, like everybody's eating garbage, we're allowing garbage in our food. Like, I don't think it's going to be that much longer before we start to really see a shift across the whole. So I want to say congratulations to you for being on the tip of the iceberg, doing this kind of thought process and book and all of this stuff as we just change our mentality about how we live. But you start out the book talking about your mom and how ill she was. And that really struck a chord with me because I feel like I am your mom. Like there are days when I can't even get off the couch and my kids are like, why can't you come play with me? Why can't you come talk to me? Why can't you do this? So, and that's not necessarily autoimmune diseases. That's a lifestyle of poor decisions and not criticizing the people, but just like choosing the bad options. So I think that's one of the greatest things about this whole 6 steps to confidently getting your life back is because you do, when you allow your body to get to that point where you have no energy, you're out of shape, you're physically just like, right now I'm at a point, I'm so ashamed to say this, but I have to like take in a big giant breath and hold my breath so that I can tie my tennis shoes because I like gained so much weight. It's like I'm pregnant again. I can't reach my feet and breathe at the same time. And I'm like, that's not living. That's surviving in a body that I am slowly but surely destroying. But it's overwhelming to try and start back again. So this book, one of the best things is not only does she go through all of these different segments, but there is an entire workbook in the back, the 6 Steps workbook for men and women. There are different action steps. There are different checklists for men to go through and for women to go through so that you kind of set your baseline on where you are health-wise. And by the way, the ebook is 99 cents today and tomorrow. But if you get the ebook, there's a link where you can go and download the whole workbook so you can still print that off and have that. So take advantage of that. That's a huge deal. And I just want to say how much money you can spend in personal coaching, and she's giving it to you for 99 cents. So it's kind of a no-brainer on this one. But yeah, so that's my 45 cents on the topic. It was more than 2 cents for sure.
More than 1 cent for sure.
So I don't know, what else could you, like, I've talked a lot from the perspective of being unhealthy and overweight and having autoimmune diseases, but who else? And Nancy said you don't have to have autoimmune diseases. Who are we missing? Who else are you trying to speak to with your book?
This book is for everybody. I mean, it's really got something in it for everybody. And I can't imagine asking a group of people, like, who here in this room feels perfect, right? Like, nobody feels like I have energy and I feel good all day long. And I mean, every now and then you meet people like that, but it's so rare. And this book is meant to kind of hit all of those bases. In any point of your own journey or wherever you're at, there's something in it for you. Just even to have kind of a collective, holistic, healthy lifestyle, the book has every different component in it. So even if you're just looking to kind of level up your life a little bit, this book is going to have something in it for you. Even just walking through some of the little action steps at the end of each chapter, even if you're not really dealing with a whole lot of issues, can really give some big benefits. And I would be hard pressed to pick a category of people that this doesn't belong to, because I think that everybody can really benefit from it. If you're, sister, brother, mom, anybody that's complaining about headaches or joint pain or back pain, or I just haven't been feeling that great or sluggish. Like, there's just,
I can't tie my shoes.
Yeah, there's such a multitude of information in here that I can't narrow it down and say only these people need to read this book. It's specific with autoimmune disease because I personally have autoimmune disease and was able to reverse those damage and reverse all of that. And I give you my story on that, but it's also just about health and your journey back to living your life. And I feel like we all have this fear of death and dying, but really the fear that we have is being alive and accepting what we get to do every day and having the energy to go out and experience and explore and have adventures all day long. It's scarier than just kind of staying inside and saying, well, I don't really have the energy, so I'm just going to, binge watch Netflix. Right. This book is giving back that opportunity to have a life and really the permission to live a life.
I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, so now when people think about a book like this, they think, okay, if I buy this book, how much work is it going to be for me? How hard am I going to have to work?
That's so awesome. That totally depends on every single person. It's going to be very individualized. I don't believe that there's a one size fits all model for anybody. That's why instead of doing a do this type of book, I gave a workbook where you're going to be setting what steps are going to work best for you. So if you're reading through the book and you're in the detox chapter, but you really don't have any, need to go through detox or eating a really clean, healthy diet and you're feeling really good, then those action steps might take you, 1 minute, 2 minutes. It might be something to just kind of think about or to put into your mantra for the day. Other people who are really struggling, this book may be more work for them, but the work is going to have such a huge payoff. So it's really just about balancing how much benefit do you want from it? Do you want a huge benefit? Do the action steps and all of the workbook from each chapter. That might take you 2-3 weeks, a month, 3 months. You want a couple little shifts in your lifestyle, it may take you an hour. The book is meant to be read in a day, 2 days. It's very simple reading. All the chapters are pretty short and the activities are pretty short. So just depending on how much you really want to get out of it, you could spend one day reading this book and do a few of the activities, or you may spend 6 months really working through the process and the program and getting that ultimate healing and health back.
I mean, what I liked about your last blog post when you were talking about how you first started the autoimmune protocol,
yes,
is that I felt like, okay, so I felt like I understood that like this is a long game, you know, because when you first wrote that blog post, I think it was like you had been on it for 9 weeks, and so you were just talking about how like in the beginning you had to like make these changes, and then, you know, but 9 weeks in, like you were seeing those results and stuff. And I feel like knowing that, people reading that, knowing that helps them to understand, okay, this is not meant to be something that you do tomorrow.
No, this is not a 3-day or a 6-day cleanse. This isn't something that you're gonna start 1 week and then wear off the next week. This is making life changes for your lifetime so that you have ultimate longevity. And that's the point. The point is that you may start out being, you know, on the couch and not really able to do these things, but the point is to have your life for the rest of your life. So for me, starting in my 30s, I now have, you know, 70 plus years of a healthy life. And that to me was so much more worth 2 years or 3 years of work that I put into it than just continuing to live that kind of nasty, sluggish lifestyle. So it's the long game, and the more energy and the more effort that we put into it, the better we're going to have of that trajectory the rest of our life. And even if you're in your 50s and 60s and 70s and you're looking at, you know, 30, 40, 50 more years, you've got grandchildren coming, you've got, you know, adventures to have, places to see, places to travel, and you want to have the ability to walk up the steps of Machu Picchu at 70 years old, then do all the steps in the book. You know, that's kind of the way I look at it. Like, what do you know, how much more value do you want out of your life?
Yeah. I mean, one question that just popped into my head is that you said that one of the things that really helped you was that you had a lot of support from your family. And I know that you talk about having a clean pantry and that you just like overhauled your kitchen. So what is your advice to somebody that like has to deal with maybe like a spouse that is like, where did all the food go?
I totally tricked my family. This is like me being that mom that's like, I'm going to be tricky. I allowed the food to get eaten and then didn't ever bring it back. So it was just like, oh, now we don't have bread in the house, or we don't have goldfish anymore. Or we just didn't have it. And once we stopped having it, they kind of stopped asking for it. So it was just kind of this like really slow transition. If you're living with family members that are absolutely not ever going to change anything and they're just like, we're not doing it, I recommend doing like a shelf in your pantry or a cabinet that's like designated, this is my cabinet, and only go there. The blog post about the importance of a clean pantry is a little decisive or a little deceptive based on the title, but what actually happened was my grandma passed away and I went into full-blown depression, sweatpants, couldn't get out of bed. And when you're in that state of mind, you want mac and cheese and hot dogs. You don't want like, you know, some autoimmune soup and bone broth. Like that's just not where my head was going. So for me, not having it in the house was the way I was able to control those types of things. Like if I was craving something and I didn't have the energy to go get it and it wasn't in my pantry, I wasn't going to eat it. I was really lucky to have people in my life that were supportive of that, but it didn't happen right in the beginning. My house didn't go gluten-free for the first year that I was doing all of that. No gluten, no dairy. I was eating it just on my own. I started gaining support when I started feeling better. And when people started to see how good I was doing, they started following suit. And it's been 3 years now, and now I have a completely paleo house, but it took that time. This isn't something you can do overnight. This is something you got to make one little change over time and be sneaky with the family, because especially with kids, they don't know. They'll just be like, oh, that doesn't exist in the pantry anymore. After a week, they forget about it. Don't take them to the grocery store with you. But that, you know, that's my advice. And there's a lot of people who aren't going to be supportive. And I talk about this in the book too, in the peer pressure chapter, about how you making a change in your life is going to really affect other people who are around you, because there's this huge sense as a human being of being judged and being judgmental. And when we make big changes like that, it's hard for people in our environment to not feel like they're being judged.
Yes.
Like if you stop drinking, oh my gosh, everybody was like, you're not drinking anymore? You think you're better than me? Like, who do you think you are? You know, it's like this, it's a threat to them when you make changes and start feeling better. So for me, I found that kind of keeping what I was doing quiet for a little while until people started asking me questions. And that's when I started telling, like, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm making adjustments. And it was hard, man. People would ask me all day long, well, what do you eat? What can you eat? And I was so offended all the time, thinking like it was me, you know, like they were mad at me for making and trying to be healthier. Like, I just don't want to die. I just want to take care of the kids that I brought into the world, you know? But it's a huge challenge for other people when you start making changes. So don't be surprised if you go home and you bring this book home into your husband or wife and you're like, I want to do these things. And they're like so against it, because that's so scary. And we know when we decide to make a change for ourselves, how scary it is. And we kind of, you know, don't want to tell people like, I'm going to do yoga every day. Like, but what if I fail? What if I mess it up? It's scary as just for ourselves. It's nearly impossible for everybody else. So my only advice on that is go slow. Trick your family by moving things out of the house that are not going to be good for you and you don't want to have them in there anyways. I was lucky enough that my kids were young enough, and my husband really hates going to the grocery store. So if I bought it, it was in the house. If I didn't buy it, it wasn't in the house. If I cooked it, we ate it. If I didn't cook it, we weren't eating. So I was lucky to be able to change the diets that way in my house without really having too much backlash. But that's not the case with most of my clients.
Yeah.
And that's why, I built this community and Independence Through Nutrition and this book, all to be support for those who aren't getting the support anywhere else. I'd love to be the person that you lean on when you're looking for that help. That's what I'm here for.
I'm going to tie the Independence Through Nutrition
Thank you.
group in here also. But one of the other very interesting things about you writing this book is that there's a lot of people who are medical professionals or nutritionists who write books on eating healthy and changing things. But you are a very interesting combination because you are a psychologist and nutritionist. So you really, really get this whole psychology behind what's happening and what's going on. But I think it's fascinating how quick people are. So I've completely fallen off the bandwagon, but at one point I was very strict autoimmune protocol as well. And I went on a girls' weekend, and I felt like I wasn't trying to be a pain, but when you go out to a restaurant and you can't have dairy and you can't have sugar and you can't have wheat and you can't have gluten and you can't have all of these things, like you have to ask a lot of questions because even a salad can wind up contaminated, and I really was trying to be as, not picky. And I allowed myself a few things that I wouldn't have normally, just because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be grilling this waiter for like 15 more minutes if I don't just be like, okay, I might get a little bit of dairy today and I'll just get back to it tomorrow, But one of my girlfriends was, it was like she was attacking me. She was like, who are these? When she was like, why are you doing this diet? And I was like, well, the research, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, who are these people that are saying, like I had just either made it up or was following like straight up quacks. And I'm like, I don't know that I need to give a bibliography right now, but I do know that they are legit medical researchers going out and finding this stuff. And I'm not saying you have to eat gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, caffeine-free, whatever, but I want to heal my body and it's working. So back off.
I can't even tell you. I actually had friends who put like, I don't think can explain it as passive aggressive, but like posts on Facebook that were very clearly kind of attacking me and what I was doing for myself and my health. Like, I can't eat these things, and kind of like making fun of me before it was a cool thing to make fun of people who can't eat gluten and dairy. And there's like memes going around now with like a plate of ice, you know, like when you don't eat all these things, it's like, here's your plate of ice. And it was just a funny thing to like make fun of the people who couldn't eat these things. But like, it still wasn't funny to me. I was so raw. I was losing weight like crazy fast and feeling so horrible. And it was, for me, I took so much offense to it. Like, I am trying not to die. Like, that's all I'm trying to do. And it is so severe the way you have to go about doing this. But again, going back to like, it's the long game, like people are going to be crappy, and it's on them, right? There's a really great quote in the book that I loved by Viola Davis. It's at the end of the book, end of one of the chapters. And it basically is saying like, we don't need a thicker skin, because thicker skin, you know, keeps things from going in and out, right? Like, you become more numb, like you're not loving out or loving in if you have a thicker skin. But you don't have to own anybody else's crap either, right? Like, when they come to you and they're like, what do you can eat? What can you eat? What can you do? Like, it's not your problem to deal with them or to even answer them. Just like, I'm doing this lifestyle change. I'm choosing to make these adjustments for myself and kind of watching what happens. Just like, do your own life, you know, like mind your own business in the nicest way possible.
Right.
But there's a whole chapter in the book about being peer pressured when you're trying to make these kind of lifestyle changes. And there's a lot of really good information in there on how to deal with those kind of people and just say like, you know, this is my life. You live your life. And I found that even the way we word things can be easier for people. Melissa Hartwig just recently came out and said her new phrasing for things is, I'm choosing not to eat this right now.
Yeah.
So like, if you're not eating dairy, rather than saying like, I don't eat that anymore, because that sounds more judgmental, like, why would you eat it, kind of a thing, rather than saying, I'm choosing not to eat this for my health right now.
Yeah.
So even just the way we word things, we can have better benefits on these conversations with people. But it blows my mind when people like, I just want to be healthy, but they get offended by that because they're not, you know.
Or like, people just try to be like helpful. You know, like I had somebody like who had been doing this some kind of like nutritional counseling that is like $200 a month. And, you know, and I was asking her about it. She doesn't get, I was like, oh, I guess the accountability can be good. And she was like, no, it's not about accountability. I just track everything in a spreadsheet. And then she looks at it and asks me questions. And she wanted to do the same thing for me. And I was like, you know, I mean, I appreciate where you're coming from, but I'm not going to, please don't spend $200 a month on me. I'm not going to benefit from trying to like put all my food in a spreadsheet and then having somebody tell me like what I need to be doing or whatever. First of all, I have 3 children. I don't have time to be filming every time I put food in my mouth. You know, and like I know people mean well, but I really have to be like, thank you, but no.
Right, and even doing something that strict is so, I hate the restrictedness of things. Like, even with the autoimmune protocol or Whole30 or any of these other elimination diets, it's a short-term thing for long-term goals, and you're going to, like, grow from it. But when we're having to be forced into these, like, little boxes of, like, let me write a list of every single thing that I'm doing, it's not, I mean, that's not long-term change. You're never going to do that again.
Like not good for your mental health either.
No.
Like constantly thinking about, you know, I'm not going to eat this because I'm going to have to write it down, or I feel terrible writing that down. It's almost like shame.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, I'm like, I cannot get behind this. I just want to just eat the things that make me feel good and not eat the things that make me feel terrible.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
Well, okay, so we have been chit-chatting for a little while here. I just want to give a couple reminders. It is launch day for this book. We are really encouraging people to get out there and click on the link that we have in here. I'll put it back on here again so that everybody has it right here in the fresh forefront here. Sorry, I can't talk and copy and paste at the same time. It just never happens. But today the ebook is 99 cents. And this is a fantastic deal because, like we were saying, it's basically free coaching, or 99 cents to buy thousands of dollars worth of health coaching. And you will get a link to download the full PDF of the workbook. So you'll be able to print that off and utilize the workbook. I think it's really, really great, especially if you've struggled with trying to change your diet and lifestyle because it felt really overwhelming to you. I've linked her Facebook groups. I've linked her Facebook page. I've linked all these other places where you can connect with Sharissa. I put the AIP, how I started my AIP journey blog post, so you can see her blog from all this stuff. But I would encourage you to go get the 99-cent deal. You'll be really sad if you wait until Thursday and you go and it's $9.99 or whatever the price goes up to, but it will not be 99 cents. You can also order the print version, which I love to have books like this so I can hold them and write in them and take notes.
I just ordered my copy today. I can't wait to get it.
Yes. So I ordered one for both of my older sisters, actually, because they are always on the same kind of journey as I am with trying to figure out what's working and what's not working. And
I feel like your podcast is like a
podcast. Yes.
To the book.
Yes.
But they're like short. The podcast episodes are pretty short, and they're like, it's almost like bonus material to the book. It's really amazing.
I've been trying lately to kind of follow along with some of the chapters and give a little bit of information more, like how to utilize the book, how to utilize each chapter. Last week I went on my last week's episode was the 6 steps, or is that this week's episode?
I think this week is 6 steps.
Yeah.
So
tomorrow, there's an episode coming out tomorrow about the 6 steps. So that goes through each of the 6 steps, a little bit more information about each one. And then of course you can get the workbook from the book so you can work through each of the 6 steps. But this way, again, you're just getting more information. Once I published the book, I couldn't add any more to it. So the podcast has been my way of kind of giving more that goes along with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so many things that you could go into that like spin off from the book.
Totally.
Yeah.
So cool. It's so much great information. I really enjoyed being a part of this journey with you. It really, really has been great that we have a lot of the same issues. So I feel like you wrote the book right for me. But I know there are lots of other people who have also the same issues. And, Sharissa's a living example of how you can correct the issues caused by diet and lifestyle related problems, really, by just making different choices. I'm not going to use the word better choices because we're not judging people. Different choices. I'm trying to make different choices in my life that will benefit me and the way my body handles things differently. It's not written in like really, really crazy like medical speak. It doesn't give you a list of foods that as of tomorrow you have to eliminate from your life for forever. So it's a great starting point to get you where you need to be, and then you can go down some of these other more significant, more like strict plans later on down the road. But thank you for being with us. Thank you for trusting us with your baby here, with your book baby. And it's been a real pleasure. I can't wait to see what happens with this.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled.
So go find her at SharissaBradley.com. There's so much great stuff on her website. Go at least click on the Amazon link if y'all can do that for me, just as a little favor, just to tell Amazon that people are interested in this book. That would be amazing. We want to help her out as much as we can. And even if you don't want to buy it, go click on the link, go share the link, go like her Facebook page, go do all these things. From a publisher's perspective and an author myself, like people don't realize how much just these little things like clicking on a link or leaving a review or buying the book when it's 99 cents, even if you never read it, or or liking a Facebook page, all of these things can really help us as authors, as entrepreneurs, as all of these things. So thank you, Sharissa, for being with us. Would you like to have any parting words here?
I just want to say thank you both, of course. I couldn't have done it without you, my perfect team, my wonderful team. And thank you to everybody who's going to read this book. I wrote it for you. I really, years and years of meeting with clients and having the same questions asked over and over again, I realized really quickly that these things were not common sense and that there was information missing in the world. And this is my contribution. I'm really, really proud of the information in this book. It's relevant and will be relevant for a very long time. So I really hope you get some benefit out of it. And thank you for letting me be a part of your journey. This is my journey too. And this is helping me to stay consistent with my own life. So I hope I can give you the same benefit. Thank you all so much.
Amazing. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Woo.